Okay, the next phase of what we're going to talk about is punching to get effective scoring technique. Okay, one of the challenges people have is they miss out on the scoring criteria. Now the basic scoring criteria are good form, good timing, good distance, vigorous application, zanshin, which means awareness, and sporting attitude. Now hopefully sporting attitude is a given in karate. Karate is all about honor and discipline. Okay? But it's the other five that we really need to nail home in order for the referee to stop the fight and for the judges to award us some points. Okay? So what we're looking for is those key components all to come together to finalise the package. Okay? What we're going to work through is going to work through Kizamizuki, Gyakuzuki, and Oikomazuki. So front hand punch, rear hand punch, and a lunging forward stepping punch. Okay? All of these techniques are used as set-up techniques, but they're also used as scoring techniques. The key principle is to understand the footwork and the positioning of the punch. Okay? We're going to start with Gyakuzuki. Okay, so my partner is going to take a stance. The key principle here is, again, going back to that footwork. I don't want to bounce up and down on the spot. I want to move both my feet, engage in retreating. Notice here my right hand sits on my solar plex, my left hand is extended and it points at his chin. Okay? Main reason being is that allows me to control the distance between me and my attacker. Okay? A couple of basic things that we don't want to do when we do the reverse punch. So we don't want to do this. Number one is I don't want to move my front foot, placing my foot down, and then hitting the punch. Okay? This movement needs to be like a bow and arrow. It needs to be simultaneous. Move the foot with the hip and hand. One and back. One and back. One and back. Okay? That being my Gyakuzuki. The other key here is to make sure I don't come too wide. If I come too wide, I walk into the distance of my partner's right hand. We both hit each other. Then we'll leave the decision up to the referee and the judges, which is what we want to avoid. So I want to have a tight line to my opponent's front foot. So when I land forward, my foot should be just next to his foot on a tight line as I execute my Gyakuzuki. Next challenge is this front hand. The front hand is going to be either be in my way, okay, or my opponent is going to be engaging in a motion. Okay. So from a basic point of view, I bounce here. And I work my hand in, one, and back. Two, and back. 3 and back. So again, getting this hip to work. So here, on my own, with my feet again, forward and back. I work my hand. Yeah! 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 That's the basic point that we're after. Okay. The next phase here is to deal with this hand. Ideally, if I move the hand this way, you don't need my opponent to throw the yak. Okay. So we can talk about jamming the hand as well. We can actually do this similar to a Superman flying through the air type motion. They'll jam the hand and throw the yak. So again, here, 1, 2, 3, with my yak. Notice my hand when I hit. Straight to the target, straight back. Straight to the target, straight back. Key is to maintain the eye contact with your opponent as well. No point going, yeah, I just got a point. Look at your hand when your opponent knocks you out. Okay, so we want to maintain this, move away, yeah! 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 So I jam the hand, turn the hip and punch. And that's the Gyakuzuki. Okay, the next technique we're going to talk about is the Kizamizuki. The key principle behind the Kizamizuki is again to create as little unnecessary movement as possible and go directly to the target. Okay, before I talked about the hand position, with one hand covering my solar plex or my body, the other hand being in front of my face. I want to use this front hand in front foot and engage this target. So I make the movement directly to the target, you know, push the hip, I get this motion, the front foot moves, so I go here, and back. Now the important part here is to recover the hand and show kamae. Okay? What I'm doing here is showing good karate basic form. Remember before we talked about the scoring criteria, one being that good form component. So I work one bounce, I will give myself, yeah! 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 Notice the motion of the hand to go from point A directly to the target and then come back just like I would the Gyakuzuki. Okay, the Oikomizuki. Okay, I've heard this punch called twizzers. One-legged punch, a stepping punch, a running punch, you know, Superman punch. The MMA use it as a sort of like a knockout running punch. There's about 1,000,001 names for it. However, the key principle here is to engage this hip and again the footwork. So we're looking at putting those two characteristics together. Now, keep in mind what we talked about before with the Yakuzuki is moving this front foot in on my opponent's range. Okay? The key principle here is I want to sink. I want to sit down on my legs. My legs are my springs. That's what's going to get me from this point to the point where I can hit my opponent. So my opponent takes their guard, I move my front foot, I engage his hip on my way through. Again, pushing this hand. Like we did before with the Yakuzuki. So I'm here, one. From here I throw the one-leg punch. Just by throwing it, turning my hip. Yakuzuki, there's my punch. That's essentially my one-leg punch. The one-legged component of this, or the Komizuki motion, is as I recover the hand, I step through. Okay? Thus, setting me up to take my opponent down. Okay? So the motion here is to make the score by jamming the hand, turning the hip and punching. So again, I work my bounce, forward and back, forward and back, forward and back. And I go through my opponent. And that's how I make my Oikomizuki. Talk about this. Talk about shoulder blades into the camera blades. So blades are going to be up and recovering. Talk in fact about basic karate. Teaches everything from stepping 90 degrees, bringing the knee up and throwing the kick. Stepping with the knee kick, and stepping in the whole way. Okay. So explain that to the camera, and explain what you want. Okay, so also make sure you say nothing wrong with those other things. However, from a sports provider point of view, this is what we're going to say.
Now we're going to move on to kicking, and the first kick we're going to look at is my Mawashigiri, or my roundhouse kick. From a basic point of view, we tend to see a lot of teachings done where you take your fighting stance, you step, you bring your feet together, you lift your knee into the position that you want, you flick your foot, and you come back and recover. And that's the general idea of what a basic Mawashigiri is about. Whereas in sport karate, we more want to see the ideas of leaning your body and loading your back leg so that you can lift your knee without the step in between, eliminating less time for your opponent to react. So instead of I push with my back leg and I drift my leg up to then throw my roundhouse kick. And at the same time, the step down is also something we want to avoid in sport karate. Whereas the step down again takes more time and gives my opponent more reaction time to move away or hit me back. So what I want to focus on is loading my back leg, pushing with my leg so that I can drift up, throwing my leg, and then when I bring my legs back, to bring my legs back down, out of range, and at the same time.
Chris, maybe take a mat that way. Good. Start again from there. And I'm just going to stay out of the zoom while you do this bit because it shows your feet here.
What do you want to do?
Yeah, so just start from the beginning.
We're now going to look at kicking, and the first kick we're going to look at is Mawashigiri. From a basic principle, my roundhouse kick is seen to take my fighting stance or my Zen Kuzunashi, bring my feet together, and turn my back foot and turn my body away from my partner. Lift my knee into the position that I want, flick my foot out and back, and then bring my feet back down again. And that's the general idea of how we teach our first roundhouse kick. In a more sport karate application, we want to see the least amount of time to execute. That's what we're looking at. In a more sport karate point of view, we want to eliminate the least amount of time so that we can execute this kick as fast as possible, giving my opponent less reaction time. So when I throw my washigiri, I want to focus on loading my back leg so that instead of stepping and bringing my feet together, I can eliminate that step and bring both of the first two steps together so that when I lift my knee, my foot is already up, ready to kick. Then I want to flick my leg and bring my legs back down together at the same time, thus avoiding a step down again, as we want to take the most amount of time out of my kick so that my partner has less time to react and I have more time to spare. So what I want to focus on is taking my stance and making a drifting motion instead of a stepping motion. Thus, I can make my kick faster, and this allows me to load my legs and set up other techniques at the same time. So I want to push off my back leg, drift my leg up, throw my kick, and come back down at the same time. Again, loading those legs so you can come in or you can come out after your kick. Focusing on more scoring with your light washigiri, because you want to work on the accuracy or the placement of the foot when you throw your leg. So the basic idea is where you find your partner's ear, is where you want to place your foot. Any earlier, your foot can sway across. Any more behind shows incorrect timing or distance, going back to the scoring criteria before. So when I throw my kick, and add my foot almost past my partner's head, so that it shows that I can hit my partner. So when I throw my leg, I lift my leg, aim front my partner's ear, and come back. Depending on your age group, you need to focus on whether you just need to touch with your leg, not touch with your leg, or create a little bit of contact. At the same time, you always want to aim for that same spot, so you can show correct timing, correct distance, correct form, and maximising your chances of scoring with your technique.
Next technique we're going to talk about at a basic point of view that we really want to be able to develop and score is the rear leg roundhouse kick. Okay? Ideally for the body. Okay, one of the key principles here is that if I throw my kick, I bring my arm, bring my leg around, the difference from sport karate is A, there's a good chance I'm going to kick his elbow, and B, there's a good chance I'm going to hit the yakuzuki. Okay, thus making what's considered to be more a traditional rear leg roundhouse kick almost ineffective for sports karate. Okay, so what we're going to talk about here is adjusting the kick slightly and making more of a basic shotgun kick, which is to make an axe motion or what Shubukai and Shidori refer to as a right ashigiri, which is a kick that comes up on this plane, cutting through my opponent's guard. So, from here, what we're going to talk about is from my bounce, I want to adjust my feet so my front foot comes back, almost in line with my partner's front foot. Thus creating a really tight line to my opponent's back when I throw the kick. So I bring my foot back here. Now a great way to cover the kick is to throw the yakuzuki with the right hand at the same time, or just to change the hands over. The important part here is to get this body motion engaged. Whether I do that by changing the guard or throwing the yak, really doesn't matter. For the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to throw the hand. Ideally there, what I'm going to do here is get some sort of reaction from my opponent. Now, what I'm looking for is to wrap my foot here, around my opponent's back. So I'm going to bring my foot through here, the center of my opponent's back. Problem is, if I throw this kick short, good chance I'm going to get that, which the judge, if you're sitting there in the chair, you're going to go, I'm not 100% sure it's a score. And we want the judge and the referee to go, bang, there's our 2 points. That's what we're after here. So again, adjust the line, pull the back, and we're going to kick to the back. Notice there my kick was short. Okay, so that's one we don't want. But again, pull the line back, adjust the line, I'm going to round, kick, and back. There my foot wrapped around the back of Chris, which is ideally for after those